Good evening out there. Hello and welcome to Mondays Beyond the Mic. This is the place where we go beyond the surface of relationships and topics and we dive into our personal information. So if you're nosy, just get on in here. We tell stuff about our stuff that we shouldn't be telling. But before we get into this show, I just want to say we want to say we hope you enjoyed your Memorial Day weekend. We hope you watch the best of Beyond the Mic. There are some hilarious clips in there. If you have not watched it, we recommend that you go back and watch it. So before we get started, as always, I am Coach Pache Felton, one half of Harlem Girls Inc., and that is
Dr. Elaine Sanders. Hello, everyone. Please remember to like, click, and share.
yes, and we want to say thank you for tuning back in. Yes, you had a week off, but we are back. So we are grateful that you're back with us. We thank you for our faithful followers who are always here with us, no matter what. They are faithful. They are here. They're chiming in the comments and they're engaging. They're getting on the platform. So we thank you. We thank you. We thank you. As a disclaimer, we have to put this out here because you know we can get a little ruly sometimes. So we like to say and know that everyone's opinion will be respected. Everyone is respected here. Everyone's opinions matter, no matter how you feel about them. Okay. Respect across the board. So that's the disclaimer. House rules again, respect. Let's let people talk. Let people share their values and what they think. So this month, is dedicated to men. You know why? Just because we felt like celebrating men, not for one day for Father's Day, but for the entire month. Yes, HG wanted to celebrate men.
And just to keep in mind, June is considered Men's Health Month. So we wanted to take the opportunity to talk about topics to let you know, brothers, we love you. We care about you. We want the best for you. So we're going to start out today talking about some preventive things. So take it away, Pache.
And before we jump back in, again, as always, we have to say hello to the people out there.
Good evening, Angela Dawson. I wonder. No,
Evening.
that's my sister in love. Uh,
Hmm.
Amari Sealy. Good evening, ladies. Good evening.
Good
My high school
evening.
friend. James Call. Good evening, ladies. Good evening, James.
Good evening. And again, we see you out there watching in the bleachers and the balconies and the mezzanine. We can see who's on it. Again, wait, click like and share. One, two, three. Guess what? It is free 99. We're not charging you anything. It's free. Where you get stuff for free. Y'all know we like free stuff. So, as my co-host said, this month is Men's Health Month, and our topic is heroic health versus mental and physical health. We will be addressing men and the health relationship that they have with themselves. And as y'all see, we have this beautiful young lady sitting here. And you're probably saying, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? But you know, we like to bring experts in. You know, we give our opinions, but we like to back it up sometimes in the areas that's not our areas. So we're just not talking to be talking. And that is Shalivia Dawson. Say hello
Yay.
to the people, Shalivia. Yay.
She
Let me
coming.
help you out here.
Sorry. Hi, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Oh, well,
Absolutely. So before we get into it, we are going to have my co-host, Elaine Sanders, read your bio to give the people out there a little flavor of what you got going on.
yes. So I am super excited this evening to introduce this particular guest tonight, and I'll tell you why at the end when I finish reading her bio. So Shalivia educational background includes a bachelor's of science in nursing from South University in Tampa. She also has a bachelor of science and exercise science from Florida State University. She has a master's in nursing practice from the University of Miami, where she honed her clinical skills and gained invaluable experience in advanced nursing practice. In addition, she holds a Master of Science in the Nurse Administration from the University of Cincinnati, demonstrating her leadership abilities and proficiency in healthcare management. Shalivia is a dedicated board certified adult uh, gerontology primary care nurse practitioner with expertise in caring for adults and older adults. She earned her credentials from the American Nurse Credentialing Center, the ANCC, showcasing her commitment to upholding the highest standard of patient care. And that's just a little bit of her bio. And I'm going to end it by saying I am extremely elated because not only does she have all of these wonderful accolades, I get to claim her because she is my beautiful niece. So welcome.
Yay. Thank you, Auntie.
Yay. And again, thank you again for being here with us. And we must say hello to our faithful, the psalmist. He said, "What's
Hey,
good, Harlem girls? Let's go." You were talking, Elaine?
no,
Okay. So, Miss Dawson, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go. Let's go. So, again, tonight's topic came from a book that I read called The Boy Crisis. And in that book, there is a chapter that talks about heroic health versus mental and physical health. In the particular section, it talks about the subliminal messages that Hollywood sends to boys. It says, and I quote, there are that a hero must be so fully sacrifice himself that others only recognize his facade as a quasi-human doing, not himself as a fully human. That is, others recognize Superman, but no one knows the real Clark Kent. And Lois Lane was only interested in him as Clark Kent after she discovered he was Superman. Now we know these boys grow up to be men, so we're going to talk about mental health versus, let me back up, health versus mental and physical health. So my co-host Elaine is going to read the first comment or slash question.
okay. So first we're going to start with the chronic stress and the immune function, immune suppression. The pressure to embody the heroic and invulnerable image can lead to chronic stress. Chronic stress suppresses the immune system, making it less effective at detecting and fighting off cancer cells, potentially increasing the risk of prostate cancer. So, in your professional opinion, I mean, what comes to mind when you hear this, Jalivia?
Well, so before we get into that, let's briefly discuss like what cancer is, and then specifically like prostate cancer before I go in any further. So, according to the CDC, cancer is a disease in which abnormal cells divide without control and take over other tissues and can spread into other parts of the body. It'll spread through the blood and through the lymph system, and our lymph system is associated with our immune system, and it works together with our circulatory system, which is our blood vessels. So for prostate, the prostate is a gland that is in males, and it makes some of the fluid that's part of semen. So prostate cancer begins when cells in the prostate gland then start to grow out of control. So there's more of an indirect link than a direct link when it comes to chronic stress and potentially increasing the risk of prostate cancer. There's very limited research out there as far as distinguishing a direct link. The National Cancer Institute mentioned a case study among Canadian men that found an association between like work stress and the risk of prostate cancer. However, there was another study that did not find that correlation. But there is research out there that suggests cancer can worsen with chronic stress, which would be that indirect link that I mentioned.
Okay. Okay.
That's good.
Yeah, so it does, but not just directly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, because there's a lot that goes on with stress, because stress
Exactly.
can throw you off in all kinds of ways. And I know we're talking about the men tonight, but I was
Yes.
having a flashback for myself. Okay.
Right. Yes.
So let's talk about the immune function. So it talks about inflammation. Persistent stress contributes to chronic inflammation, which is a risk factor for many cancers, including prostate cancer. Inflammation creates an environment that can facilitate cancer growth and progression. So, what are your thoughts?
Yes, that's definitely something to consider. Having the stress or chronic stress, been in that state of chronic stress, with the inflammation that can come with other, things that you might be dealing with in your diet that can cause, inflammatory response. That can cause a certain type of hormone to prevent the death of cancer cells, which then causes the cancer to continue to grow and multiply. And then this chronic state of being inflamed or stressed or whatever, can then ultimately lead to a hindrance in your treatment. So then you're not, receiving the treatment as well, or responding to treatment in a way that is designed to, to work for you. So it all kind of, like you said, it kind of links together. If you're in a stressful situation or state, for regardless of whether it's environmental or if you have an inflammatory response to something like with your diet, or you're not just, your lifestyle, whether, your kids or, work or whatever the case may be. You never know. There's multiple things. And then just dealing with, your mental health and all that can all, increase your state or chronic state of being stressed. And then sometimes we function in that, right? We think it's normal, not knowing how impactful it is when we are faced with some type of, illness like cancer, and how that can then ultimately affect how we heal and how we respond to the treatment like chemotherapy and radiation.
That's good. I mean, I have a question that I'd like to just throw in there. What are
Okay.
some of the foods, like you talked a lot about foods, um, that you can say people need to pull out of their diet, and what are some of the things they need to put more into their diet?
Yeah, so some of the foods like dairy is really, I mean, and I love cheese. I'm a huge cheese fan, but dairy is not that great. Red meats, and I love a good steak. Pork obviously is not the best thing. So we don't know how to I think we overindulge. So like I'd like to treat myself to a nice steak every now and then. I don't eat steak every day. Like I still eat pork because I like bacon. However, I don't buy bacon. But if I go out to eat, which is not often, but if I do go out to eat and, there's a particular dish that has bacon bits or something, then I indulge in that because that's not something I eat all the time. However, like the cheese thing for sure, dairy is when the red meats, like I said, fried foods, processed foods, those all can hinder your response to naturally healing or working with medications that are designed to fight cancer that can kind of hinder and slow your progress. So doing more fresh fruits and vegetables obviously are, things that will be helpful. Keeping so if you do more lean meats like, turkey, not frying everything, doing baked things, chicken, fish, getting your omega-3s in there, that's always a plus as well.
I would like to say something. This is so good because I never knew inflammation was associated with cancer. I've always thought of it as just as in the autoimmune department with
Right.
respects to arthritis and psoriasis, just things we see. So never knew that there was a correlation. That inflammation is something else.
Yes, yes. It's correlation with a lot of things that a lot of chronic conditions, unfortunately, because like you said, it invades our immune system. So that inflammatory response is like it can be detrimental essentially, right? And
Oh
very
yeah.
much a barrier to trying to get to a space where your body is naturally doing what it's trying to do to fight off whatever diseases. But then also, like I said, the medications that you're given, like with the chemotherapy, that can slow that process down as well. So you're
Okay.
having now have more chemotherapy to try to combat, something that if you weren't in an inflammatory state or a chronic state of stress, that it might not take as much chemo to get you to the point of being okay or being
Okay, that's good.
good.
That's good. We thank you for that. Let's see. We have some comments.
Corey Hunter says, as we get older, the same foods we used to enjoy are now detriment to us. We have to now find alternatives, healthy alternatives, along with exercise. Yes,
And
absolutely.
that, I'm sorry, I think that's a good point. I had this conversation. I think we was having this conversation as well, that when we were growing up, foods weren't so bad. They weren't shot up. Now everything is made. It's in the manufacturers, genetically modified because it's the thing to produce it. So you got to get it out there. So
Right.
that's a great point because I grew up eating pork. I grew up and we was fine. My grandmother had the tub of lard on the stove. Don't act like y'all know that big Crisco tub of lard that sat
Oh, I know.
on
I
the
don't know if
stove.
she knows, but I know.
Oh well, yeah, you might know. Some
I've
people in the
heard
chat
stories.
might
I've
know.
heard stories.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and we were fine, but now things have changed dramatically to where
Hmm.
everything affects our health. So, great comment, Corey. Thank you for that. So, we are going to move along. So, Shalivia, we're going to talk about now delayed medical attention. And
Okay.
I think this is a good one because I don't have the statistics, and somebody can pull it if they want. I have heard that it's easier for women to go get physicals and checkups. Like we're on point with that. But to get a man to go and especially to have their prostate checked, baby, it turns real different because their mind goes somewhere else opposed to thinking of health, 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 health. Right? So we're going
Yes.
to talk about that. But okay, before we say that, I got to put this comment up here. The psalmist said that Crisco anointing, ladies. My God. Yes, the Crisco was getting it. Okay. So delayed medical attention. So listen up, men. Men influenced by their stoic hero archetype might avoid regular medical checkups and prostate exams. This delay is seeking medical attention can result in late diagnosis of prostate cancer when treatment options are less effective. What's your take on that?
Yeah, so you're right. I don't know the statistics. However, in my experience as being a nurse for a long time now, over 10 years, um, my patients, I found that my female patients have been more compliant, and this is before I was even a nurse practitioner. Just being a bedside nurse or just working, my female patients were definitely more compliant than the male patients. But before we, like you said, kind of dig into that, um, so the possible why behind, before I get to that, I wanted to highlight some stats as it relates to like the prostate cancer, because this is something, like you said, with the exams and everything that a lot of men are not that excited about. So about 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer during their lifetime. About 6 in 10 prostate cancers are diagnosed in men who are 65 or older, and it's rare under the age of 40. What's really alarming is that prostate cancer is higher in African American men and in Caribbean men of African ancestry than in any other race. across the world, which is very alarming. And there's no um, information out there that can distinguish why. Like, why is it higher? And it's continuously climbing. I was looking at additional stats that I was like, oh my gosh, like
Mhm.
even across the board with just cancers, like African American people are like at an alarming rate going higher in the percentage of cancers, being affected by cancers than any other race. And then that number for prostate is continuously climbing, like significantly compared to, other races. So the possible why behind the delay in seeking medical attention, one could be not knowing the risk factors, which would be older age, genetics and family history, or race. Not knowing the signs and symptoms, right? Not recognizing that it is a sign or symptom. So some of those symptoms would be frequent urination at night, blood in your urine, difficulty starting to go, urinating, painful ejaculation, and then blood in the semen. And then also not getting the right surveillance based on the risks that are identified, but then also those signs and symptoms that you may have and you're not thinking is the issue. So
Mhm. That's good. That's good information. And we have some comments, and I'm glad the men are talking. So,
Corey says, I go every 6 months to a year. I lost too many friends through health issues. So good for you that you are going to get it done. The
mhm.
psalmist says, I'll speak for me. I don't look forward to going for my checkup in that department. It's not exciting at all. Put me to sleep, my God. And just even as okay, Corey says,
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You want to speak to that?
no, I was gonna say, I just did some quick research here, and it talked about Black men are less likely to go for the screening because of lack of awareness, racial bias, mistrust, financial barriers, are some of the reasons why that there
Mhm.
is some fear
Mhm.
with Black men going to get screened for
yeah,
prostate cancer.
I mean,
Uh,
there's not enough that look like us, right? So you have that too, which is one of the reasons why I was always drawn to the medical field anyway. But one of the reasons why I wanted to go and get my nurse practitioner was because I know there's not a lot of people that are in at this level that look like me and reflective of my culture and that understands the culture. Like I know I can have a conversation with my father or my cousins, and they'll respect me enough and understand. They will then like, oh, I didn't think about that, I'll go get that checked, or at least it'll get their brains, their mind kind of churning, versus if they were to hear from someone who doesn't look like me, then it's like, okay, can I really trust you? Like, we can't trust a lot of things that you say. So why would I trust, what you're telling me about my health, or, or feel comfortable going in to speak to, to someone that doesn't look like them about what they're experiencing versus
Mhm.
and seeing someone that's like,
That's a
okay,
good
I know
point.
you get it. So we can have that conversation, that dialogue, like that, I could talk your language type of thing versus when a
Right.
little bit more reserved when you go in and see someone else.
That's a good point.
I think it's definitely the trust factor, because if I
Mhm.
trust you, and I'll say this, even I'm gonna say being auntie, I'll call Shalivia in a minute. This is what they said. What does that mean? Because I want someone that I trust to be able to tell me if that's the right, if that should I get another opinion? Is that the best way to go? And I think having someone like you or having people of color in the field helps us, right? And I say us, even women, because for the men that we love, we want them to be around as long as possible. So we want them to get the best advice. We want them to um, go get screened. Because we want you around. We're not trying to get rid of you, despite what you may think, right?
Mhm.
We want you to live.
Yes, absolutely.
So within that, please click, share, and like. Click, share, and like. And let's read this comment.
He says, we unfortunately have more regular risk and issues when it comes to stress, work, and family. We also do not have some of the outlets other groups have. And
And
I
even to add on, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't know
No, I
you
was going
said
to
go ahead.
say, that's true. If there's a financial barrier, you don't have the opportunity to say, I'm going to go on my yacht, or this weekend I'm going away. It's like, no, I got to work my second job. And I know it's not all, but I have to go do this, or the stress of trying to keep the family together, or the financial responsibilities can be a lot.
And even the
Yes.
quality of food that's in our neighborhoods that's available, that plays a huge factor. And
Yeah.
again, to your financial part, if I don't have the means to buy this fresh food or the fresh fruits, the fresh vegetables, and make my own juice, it's a lot on top of carrying a family. So totally understand a good point.
I,
So,
I, I have a question, and
le-
I'm wondering, do
okay.
you find that, I know this was, do you find that men who are not married, um, like, I'm just wondering the statistics of what you've seen, like men who are single, or is there more of a resistance opposed to men who are married?
Not necessarily. I haven't. I know I've seen where there is more of a push, obviously, from their partner, if you have a partner, to then go. Now, at what point does that happen, right? Because I can be nagging you until it's like, all right, fine, you've been nagging me for a year now. I'll go and see the doctor. Versus nagging for 6 months or whatever the case may be. Or then you have those who they do, and it's like there's and more so the older generation, because I was having a conversation with a former colleague of mine who was sharing her story about her dad and colon cancer, and she's a nurse, and she was trying to, but she was like, he was the old school generation, and she was trying to explain to him, like, just get the polyp removed and then you'll be fine. But he waited too late, and because of, he was, from that older generation. And then he's like, is it too late now to go? And she's like, Dad, yeah, like, the cancer had already spread and he was already declining. So and although she was trying to, pressure him, and she knew and he trusted her, it was just like the idea of it, of like, oh, the colon
Well,
is
I know we're talking about men, but I know when we have to go for the colonoscopy, it's like it feels so invasive,
It does. I haven't gotten mine yet, thankfully. It's not my time. However, I worked in GI, so I've seen many a colonoscopies happen, and many a different, responses to said colonoscopies have occurred as well. Um, and we've tried to, educate and put it out there, like, kind of what we're doing, stepping in, walking them through the steps and the process and everything of that nature. And especially it's seeing, us in it, and it's like, oh, you didn't listen. You know,
Mhm.
here we go. And then they're like, what? I'm like, oh, you didn't do. Ask, you know what you did. So have it. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna do it right this next time. So I'm like, yeah, listen, you're the one having to go do this again. Like, why? Like, and he was like, well, it took all I had to even get here, and my wife was pressured
Mm-hmm.
to do it, right? In that case. And then he had, you know, us there. It was only a handful of us, like, listen, don't make us look bad. Do what you gotta do.
Don't make us look. Go on now, get on that table.
Right.
Okay, let's go. Go on now, get on that. Stop playing. Come
Right.
on. So we are gonna move on. But before we move on, and thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Thanks for even sharing that information. That's good to share. And I think once we're more transparent and we open up, it's like, oh, it's okay. I'm not by myself.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
okay. Even you
Yeah.
got text your brother like, bruh, I'm getting ready to go in, do my so and so. Maybe he went already. Go ahead, bro. It ain't even that bad already.
I mean,
Just
it's
go and get it done. Just
temporary,
words of
like,
encouragement.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. Because it's temporarily uncomfortable, but the benefit of it long term, knowing, that this could
Yep.
literally save your life, right? It's
Yep.
like, and I'm straight up with my patients. I'm like, or you can just die. I mean, it's up to you. Like, what's more important, like,
Reality check.
yes, yes. Like sometimes I have to give it to them like that, to get them to understand. Like, I mean, this is ultimately your choice, but like, how much do you value living? How much do you value your family and
Mm-hmm.
life? Then,
Yep.
this small moment shouldn't, deter you from saving your
Right.
life potentially. So
Yep. Let's see what we have.
We have Reginald Brown. He says, aloha, ladies. Been gone for a while, but I've seen the past shows. I have what they call white coat syndrome. So good thing you didn't wear your white coat tonight. and,
Right.
and fear of the needle, but I get two physicals done, job and personal. So that's great.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good. So that's good. And welcome you, Reginald. You know you're always welcome. So we're gonna move along. And the next one we're gonna talk about, Shalivia, is hormonal changes.
Okay.
So chronic stress can disrupt hormonal balance, including levels of estrogen and testosterone. Yeah, no, I for some nights tonight I can't read. Hormonal imbalances can contribute to the development of male breast cancer. Speak to that.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting topic. So Harvard Health, they have a article that there's a connection between stress and cancer, like I said, and it's related to the body's exposure to cortisol. And cortisol is is our stress hormone, and that's produced by the adrenal gland, and that sits on top of each one of our kidneys. So according to the article, the body releases cortisol during stressful events naturally, but after an event, the levels usually go down. But if you're in a chronic state of stress, then that doesn't happen. So then you can increase your risk of your causing your cancer to spread and then increase your risk of actually dying from cancer. So in that, you can have like that development potentially of, like the breast cancer. It's very, very rare, right? Male breast cancer. The American Cancer Society just in 2023 said about 2,700 new cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed, and about 530 men will die, which is a
Wow.
significant number. But compared to women, is very, kind of low. Um, so breast cancer is about 100 times less common among white men, and it's about 70 times less common among black men than black women. As in black men with breast cancer tend to have the worst prognosis. But again, that's related to that awareness, the risk factors, not knowing, you know, or identifying if you're not feeling normal, that maybe I should go and get checked out for whatever reason. It kind of all correlates, right? Where we're more likely to go in if we have an issue versus men. So now, who knows how many undiagnosed cases of male breast cancer there is actually out there, because it's not something that people are really familiar with or know about the signs and symptoms. So you can, so if it's a male, for example, some risk factors, obviously aging again is something, family history, not just family history of like male breast cancer, but family history of female breast cancer, family history of colon cancer, just cancer in general can automatically increase your risk of potentially getting breast cancer as a male. Certain genes, if you have a gene mutation, that's also another. If you're born with a certain syndrome, it's called Klinefelter syndrome, and that's when men who have cells with a Y chromosome plus a minimum of two X chromosomes, that automatically puts you in a different category of risk for male breast cancer. And then obesity, estrogen treatment. So you have a lot of transgender situations happening, and they're getting the estrogen injections and stuff that can increase their potential of getting breast cancer as well. So
I think it's so interesting because I'm curious to know if doctors are even checking men. Like, hey, let me check your breast, doing that whole test and do men. And I'm saying they probably don't,
mm-mm.
but I think it would be good for men to go in and say, hey, check my breast. You
Yeah,
just don't know.
right.
Like,
Yeah,
hey, check me from the rooter to the tutor. I need to know what's going on with my body. Because I think men would want to know sooner than later, opposed to like, oh, he didn't even check me for this. Or now bringing awareness to it, knowing you can go in and even ask.
right. But again, if it's not being presented, like when you do get a chance to go to the doctor, for those who actually do, is that something that's even crossed your mind? No, because you didn't think that that was even a thing for a male. And then your doctor, more than likely, is not really pushing it because it's more so advertised for women to do, right? And it has been for years because it's more prevalent in women. And it's just recently within, the last few years that there's been, a little bit more of a spotlight on the male breast cancer condition. But again, it's still not a lot of research out there because, I mean, there could be multiple things. But I think primarily there's not enough evidence just in general because you don't have, especially with Black men, you don't have Black men going to the doctor like that for much of anything. But, just to get their regular annual physical is not really happening on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually waiting
That's
until
good.
something is going wrong, and that's when they feel, oh, I had a
Right.
heart attack. Oh, well, your cholesterol is, blah, blah, or your blood pressure is through the roof, and it's like, well, have you been having headaches? Have you been feeling lightheaded? Oh yeah, I have, but I just pushed through it. I'm just usually tired. I'm constantly working, blah, blah, not knowing that, those are signs of something that's seriously going on.
And if I could just add, when you're talking about breast cancer, like recently, for those that remember, the actor Richard Roundtree, he actually he was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was more like the first thing we think when we hear cancer was, oh, it has to be prostate or something else. But he was diagnosed at 51 with breast cancer.
So men going in, ask, first of all, get there and then ask. So
Right.
we know
Let
here,
me just get you there first.
right, get there. So as our commercial breaks, we read comments. So let's go to a commercial break.
Amira says, I think it goes to some of the foods that is available in our community. And we definitely talked about that, saying that, there's a lot of things that are not there, or the healthy or the best choices, depending on the community in which you live in,
Right.
the best choices. So sometimes I remember growing up seeing people going to like New Jersey. Like I grew up in New York, so you're seeing people go to New Jersey or going to Westchester County to go food shopping to come back to the community because they knew, the fresh fruits and vegetables or all the sugary drinks were, quarter waters. They don't exist in other communities. They exist in ours. They were cheap. And instead of us drinking water, we were, guzzling down these quarter waters. And it was not healthy for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not.
Corey says he agrees. He agrees with.
But even though, so you might not have access to some of the better things, but what you do have access, how are you preparing it? Like we heavily see what salt, right? We OD on the salt thing. So like that's something, even though you might not have access right now to some of the healthier options, if you work on preparing things, like instead of frying the chicken, do we have to have the fried chicken? Yes, I love fried chicken, especially my mama's fried chicken. And grandma is like, she whip us up some fried chicken before we would leave New York every time. So it's a thing, right? Does it have to be fried every time? No, chicken is cheap to buy too. But does it have to be fried? Probably not, right?
Yeah.
But you kind of have to try to work with what you have and try to figure out ways of okay, how can I at least prepare this in a way that is a little bit more healthy than what we're accustomed to preparing.
Well, I was just going to make a joke and said we had to use that can of Crisco that Pache talked about. So you had to fry.
Listen, I'm sure that's what grandma used too for those fried chicken wings.
Listen.
So
we have go.
So it says much needed conversation. Bravo. Thank you. Reginald said much needed topic. Being in my profession, yearly physicals are required, general physical, prostate, and colon testing. So that's great because now, and then you think, okay, if that's required by your job, so now is mandated. But I guess the other side of it is we don't want it to just be mandated because what happens when you retire? Will you still do that? Will you still follow? I think the main is, well, I'm going to say, I love our Black men. I love our, and we want to see you live and not have something that could have been addressed earlier. To be, we want preventive, like what can we do, or if we can catch it early, if all of those things. And I know growing up in the inner city, that mistrust of doctors, and you'll hear people talk about, well, remember the Tuskegee experiment and all of these things, but
Mhm.
that's not happening now. And your point, it may not be a lot of professionals of color, but there are some that you should be able to find, seek out, trust, and especially now they even have telehealth. You
I was
can,
gonna say telehealth. If at least if you do telemedicine, they can order the labs, and you can just go to LabCore or Quest to get the labs, and then they can review them with you. It can be sometimes that simple,
Mhm.
because your blood work can say a lot about what's going on with your body. And then from
Yes.
there, they can say, okay, well, we recommend that you go in and see this specialist or whatever the case may be. But you have to start somewhere. And that's usually, an inexpensive way of, getting it done. Just getting labbed is not that expensive if you don't
Yes.
have a primary care, that you trust, or, that you have access to.
All righty. That's good information. Let's another commercial break because our faithful men are out here and they are talking to us tonight. We love it.
right. Mr. Seeley says, we also have to really do our diligence when it comes to doing research on what the state of food is today. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a good point.
And Reginald Brown says, Dr. Sanders, you are right. And yes, that will continue. So that's great to hear. We don't want it to just be a one time, or not a one time, but while you're working.
Hmm.
The psalmist says, the power is in the garlicky kale from Whole Food. My God.
And here's a great question.
Kathy says, what is your comment on plant-based food? I never heard about it growing up.
So it's kind of tough, right? Because there's a lot of things that go into plant-based foods outside of the plants. So you have to be careful with that too, because not everything, like they say, organic, is really, sometimes they can just, if there's one ingredient that's organic, then it's like, okay, the whole product is organic, and it's really not, because not everything listed. So you have to be mindful of what the ingredients say, and looking at if it's something simple and straight. When they start getting into these long words that you can't really pronounce, all these additives and stuff like that, maybe consider something else, that's a little bit more simpler, that you actually understand, and like, okay, this makes sense. I actually understand what it is. But not, some of the plant-based things are obviously okay, but of course the more popular ones, they're popular for a reason, right? So it might not really embody all of the healthy items that it's promoting. So you have to kind of just use your discernment and like the research to kind of really see, okay, like, is this particular product really giving me what it says it's giving me? And the same with like supplements too. Not all supplements are created equal as well. When you're buying stuff over the counter, like your vitamin C and B12s and all that kind of stuff, um, some of those, they're not really, you're not getting everything that it claims that you're getting. So I always encourage my patients to do, if there's the liquid version of it. IV therapy is a really big thing now. So if you have the time and the resources to do that, you're able to then, get, for those who aren't afraid of needles. I know someone mentioned they're afraid of needles. For those who aren't afraid of needles, you can do a B12 injection or getting an IV supplement, where it's going directly into your bloodstream and really going directly to your cells, versus if you're taking certain supplements, especially, some of those big tablets, the horse tablets, your body has to break all of that down. By the time it does that, how much of that pill are you actually getting? Of like, say, a multivitamin, how much are you actually getting by the time your body has to break down through all the different layers that was used to create the,
Oh,
the pill, yeah, the form of it or whatever. So I usually say if there's a gel, capsule, or liquid version, that's less work that your body has to do to try to break through those other barriers to be able to get what you need. So it's the same thing with the plant-based.
I have a
and I
question.
would say what, okay, I'm sorry. Before your question, I just want to piggyback on the plant-based. I am one that, eats plant-based or used to. And I would say even within that, everything in moderation. Because to
Mhm.
your point, it's all not healthy because it does trigger your autoimmune system and causes inflammation. It
Mhm.
really does. And on the other side of that, my family and I, we have this app. It's called a Yuka app, and we literally walk around the supermarket scanning, and it tells you everything that is literally in the food. And some of the stuff we were eating, we was like, we've been bamboozled and hoodwinked.
Right.
Because to your point, it's popular, and you think, oh, it's popular, it's
Mhm.
not good.
Those
So
usually
it's
are
a
the
lot of
ones.
things I have cut out
Mhm.
using that app, thinking, okay, this is the good thing. It's like, oh no, this is no good. So plant-based, some brands are better than others. And
Yes.
even within that, like to your point with the fried chicken, everything in moderation because it's
Mhm.
still modified.
Right. Absolutely.
So the question that I had when you talked about the capsules, so sometimes is it better to just open up the capsules as opposed to just taking the capsule, and allowing the medicine that's
No, not necessarily, because so they're designed in that way to where it's a protection. So if you're ingesting it, it's supposed to, protect as it's being digested until it gets to a certain point. So if you open it up and then take it, then you're taking that protective coat. So
oh,
you might, so it can potentially, if you're doing it, consistently, it can potentially damage like your esophagus because it's protecting, that layer is protecting that part as it goes through your esophagus and gets to the stomach. And then once it gets to the stomach, then it starts to break down a little bit here, and then it starts going to the liver and all these different places to break it down to even further. But usually if it's in a capsule and you have the little beads and all that, there's a reason why you don't open those.
listen, I think that was a great, that was great information, because you know how many times people say, well, I can't take it, but I can take it if I could mix it into something.
Right.
But
No,
to
just
now
ask
know
if
that,
you can. Right, ask the pharmacist, do they have a liquid version?
okay.
It's sometimes it's that simple. Like, do you have a liquid version of this available?
Okay, let's do some commercial breaks because we out here talking.
The psalmist says, that's my at Whole Foods. My diet is definitely changed. Just say, okay, okay, I'm done. Laugh out loud. Mark says, good evening. I made it. We are glad you made
We're
it, Mark.
glad you made it.
I found out that impossible meat is better than beyond meat.
Well, you got to get you can scan it. We have a whole sidebar conversation about that.
Bravo with Sheila says whole food is messing with their food, is not whole food. China has a hand in some of the whole food items. Everything is not organic.
No, it's not.
Absolutely.
Mm.
I think it goes back to like reading and everything in moderation.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Kathy says, I don't eat it, just curious.
Let's be clear, y'all giving this information, but for those of us that do eat it, Kathy said, "I'm not in a category. A category. I just wanted to know."
The psalmist says, working at Whole Foods, that is a certified market for organic food, has taught me a lot of the now is the organic and the not organic.
Right. Yeah. It's
Mm-hmm.
not as straightforward as, they
Mm-hmm.
advertise it to be.
Bravo with Sheila said, so much deception on food today, organic and so-called whole food.
Here's a good point here.
Landon says no one ever mentioned labs or urine checks until I guess I got
That
28.
that
It's
28.
true. Hmm.
Wow.
You turn
Wow.
28. And to your point, having someone to say you need to do this earlier,
Mhm.
just detection, just going to the doctor.
Right.
Um, it makes a difference. Uh, uh, Antoinette says This is really an awesome conversation. So much good information, very helpful. Yes, it is. Anae says, at Coach Pache Felton, would you mind spelling the app you mentioned?
I'm gonna put
That's
it in the chat for everybody can see it because a couple of people, I kid y'all not, y'all would think I work in the store. You hear boop,
right.
everything. Cheese. I was eating that. I scanned everything. My family scanned everything. Girl, did you see what's in that? And it literally tells you everything. If it's
Yeah.
harmful, it's 100% organic. The synthetics that's in it. So I'm a straight Yuka scanner, and I will drop it in the chat for everybody to get. So this is great. Please click, share, like, and subscribe. We are going to continue the show. We are going to move on. My co-host is going to move on with the next topic. And I believe we are in depression and anxiety.
Yes. So under depression and anxiety, the emotional suppression required to maintain a heroic image can lead to mental health issues like depression and anxiety. These conditions can negatively affect physical health by promoting behaviors that increase cancer risk and by weakening the immune system. What are your thoughts?
So this is, really good conversation here that we're having. But so the article I found on racial disparities and mental health effects within prostate cancer was in this health psychology research journal that was published in 2022. And it stated that mental health plays a significant role in prostate cancer patients because it affects the physical and mental health related quality of life, treatment decisions, and health outcomes. Yet mental health remains under researched. And then there was another article with depression and anxiety and prostate cancer from 2024, and it stated that depression and anxiety associated with prostate cancer before or after treatment resulted in lower adherence to treatment, more prolonged hospitalization, more adverse reactions to treatment, and lower quality of life. So it does correlate significantly with how your state, your mental state is, and how you then respond to treatment, or how you then respond to um, staying on top of your health in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So if you're not mentally in a good space, it can definitely take you off track with your health.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to move to the next question. It talks about the lack of social support. Men who feel they must always be strong and self reliant might avoid seeking social support, leading to isolation. Lack of social support is associated with poorer health outcomes and increased stress, both of which can contribute to cancer development. Your thoughts?
So that is definitely a thing. There's research that shows that, and we also see in Black men that they're less likely to get, help when it comes to their health, or even screenings. So there's an article, Deconstructing, Addressing, and Eliminating Racial and Ethnic Inequalities in Prostate Cancer Care. And they mentioned like there were many factors such as the medical knowledge, health literacy, family and social support, education, medical insurance, income. They all correlate with race and the diagnosis and the outcome related to prostate cancer patients. There's even, like, for example, areas I mentioned geographical regions with the highest burden of prostate cancer mortality in the US, and among Black men, and how that is focused in on low socioeconomical status areas, those who have limited access to healthcare, and a limited ability to have access to social services. Um, and it stated that there's the highest disparity in prostate cancer mortality that exists in the U.S. cities with the highest levels of segregation. So the further we are from, like, we're kind of more isolated, like you mentioned, the more we are not getting or having access to the resources that we need to be able to combat, or hopefully prevent some of these things from happening. So
That's really
early
good.
intervention is key, like we mentioned before, and advocating for our Black men is very important as well.
Because we love our Black men.
Yes, we
Help to our
do.
people. So this has been awesome. This is great. So what we're gonna do now, we don't need a commercial break. There's no more comments. What we're gonna do, we're gonna switch to the section where we call stirring the pot, where we play a clip. And this is once we play the clip, we allow the men to get up and have this whole conversation. So I'm quite sure our faithfuls will get on. So I'm gonna play. Look, the psalmist said, let's go. He's ready. He's ready. So I'm gonna play the clip. And as you are telling your thoughts and we're just discussing it, they will be logging on. Okay?
All right.
Let's go to the clip.
Um, you know, thank you, mate. Thank you.
So now,
In the last year and a half, I've lost about 40 odd kilos, put on a lot of
Fucking
muscle.
impressive.
You know, thank you, mate. Thank you. I've had a lot of health challenges, had heart issues, all the rest of it. My mum's diabetic, so that was a risk. And basically, it all came off the back of working on myself physically. And then once I worked on myself physically, and this is a slightly controversial opinion, but my physical health actually correlated to my mental health. And then everything else kind of just fell into place when it comes to things like work, relationships, and all the rest of it. So it sounds like a feel-good story, but that's what happened. And what I'm advocating for is basically that essentially I can do it, you can do it too. If that is something you want to do. You don't have to, it's up to you.
so my question, I did drop the link for the men to jump on. And again, he said that's his personal opinion. Is there a correlation between mental and physical health?
Yes, for sure. Definitely. Um, that like when you're working out or you're eating healthy, you're releasing different, hormones and things that will that make you happy or, energized and everything of that nature. So it definitely all plays into that. And the more you're energized and happy, the more you're going to keep doing it, right? Because you like that feeling, right? You like the feeling of, oh, I feeling accomplished or whatever the case may be. So, and then that can then translate into other things like the guy said, it spilled into him having, better relationships and all that kind of stuff. But definitely you're more motivated with your health. And I do some weight loss therapy management on in my practice sometimes. And that's one of the things that the conversations I have is like, how motivated are you? Because I can prescribe something to kind of help you on your journey. But if you're not motivated enough to stay focused, like how's your mental health state? Like, I had one patient that was like, he was depressed because he didn't have a job. And then I'm like, well, have you at least tried to exercise? Like, no, that's why I'm here to see you. I want to get a prescription. I'm like, well, no, that's not how this works. Like I'm not just going to write you a script. Like, during this time, you have the time to exercise. So why don't you start incorporating some of that while you're also looking for a job? Because then that'll kind of motivate you to start going on the path and then and being able to accomplish some of the things that you would accomplish. I'm like sitting around, drinking, because that's what he was doing. And then hoping to get a quick fix from me, it's not going to change anything, So you have to start with yourself. And once you show me that, then we can talk about moving forward with what that would look like as far as weight loss. But I'm not one to just write a prescription just because. You have to do the work for sure.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. And we're going to go to commercial break. And then I want to piggyback on what you said because I love our faithfuls. Look at this here.
Antoinette said, I just downloaded the Yucca and scanned my sky plantings. Said it was good. It's going down, which means her plantings.
Yeah. So again, yeah, scan chips, scan everything because I do. And that's how I know. But to the point of, is there a correlation? We talked about this. I'm not sure on what show. And I can say for me, there is a correlation because what we were talking about was our health ailments and the challenges that we have.
Mhm.
And one of the things I realized that I had to do was process it mentally first because the physical was there. But in order for me to push past it, I had to recognize and acknowledge and accept what was going in my body physically.
Yeah, definitely. And even with
What was going on.
So my dad, my dad was diagnosed with prostate cancer a few years ago. So this topic is very personal to me. And one of the things that I can say about him was that he always kept a positive attitude about, his prognosis. Once he found out, he stayed on top of things. His first experience with one urologist wasn't that great, and urologist like, well, here are your options, and gave him a book to like read. So of course my dad's gonna research now. He gave him, but he didn't like the bedside manner of aspect of it, and he shared that, and I was like, well, Dad, you don't have to like stick with this person. There's a ton of other urologists out there that can do the job. So we did some more research and everything, and we were able to get him with another urologist that gave him more options and had better bedside manner, which motivated him even more. But he definitely maintained a positive attitude. Like, he didn't let that bring him down. He was encouraging us, more so. And so if he was feeling down in any kind of way, like we didn't know about it, he definitely did a good job of like protecting us from that. But I think also it went into like how he healed, outside of God, working a miracle for him. So he's definitely cancer free and has been for, several years now. Thank God. Yes. I mean, he's staying on top of his numbers and everything. So he's not playing the radio. But I think part of that too is maintaining a positive attitude and maintaining, obviously his faith in God is very strong. So keeping that, in the forefront as well helped him to get through that, that time, and helped us all to get through that time. Seeing him, motivated and seeing him positive, it was like, well, we can't be sad. Like, look at that. He's the one going through it. So that kept us, in a good space as well. So it definitely can, being around positive people, and then, you staying positive and knowing like, okay, this can be better. This will be better, and maintaining that. And more on the preventative side, being more engaged and invested in your own health in a positive way, right? That's very important. Um, we can constantly tell you what you need to do, but you have to want to live a life that's full and as healthy as possible yourself. And I can't force you to do that. But I can try to give you the tools and the knowledge to, help you. And once you're committed to that, then it's like, okay, we can partner up together and keep this thing going so that, you're around to do the things that you want to do and see the things that you want to see until, God calls you home, I guess.
And again, I thank you for sharing that with your dad and talking about the mental and the correlation. It's so funny. There's a comedian, I haven't watched it, his name is Keith Robinson. I'm not sure if y'all know. I think he's a mentor of Kevin Hart, and hilarious because he had a stroke and he was coming out to do Kevin Hart's roast. And by the time he got to the mic, he was like, they told me I got 4 minutes. I just wasted 3 walking out here. And he's literally like making jokes. And I'm like, wow, what a perspective on it. And now he has a show on Netflix called Different Strokes. I said, you know what? I'm done with him. Like, I'm so done. But his perspective and his outlook to even like, I had a stroke, but I'm not going to let the stroke take me out. He's still
Right.
doing stand up. He's still moving on. So your mental plays such a huge part in your healing.
Definitely.
And I would just add to that, it's definitely, I would say, having people around that support you. I think, your dad having his wife, his children who are supporting, and it helps to have a daughter who's a nurse who can say, who can advocate and talk in areas that you may not understand, or having the ability to give you words, or say, what does that mean? The doctor said this. And knowing, because a lot of times, I'll be honest, I go to the doctor and I'm like, okay, yes, yes, yes. And then as soon as I leave, I'm on the phone going, Shalivia, this is what they said. And I'll just share this really quick. I remember leaving the doctor and I said, they gave me this prescription of, and all she said was, it's a psychotropic. I was like, I'm done. That's it. I just needed that. And I was done. But it's having someone that you can trust in the midst of it. It does help, because I say, well, she's my niece. I know she wants the best for me. opposed to this person I just gave a $25 copay, and I don't know them again, or won't may not see them again until the next time I need to go to the doctor. So it does help.
Yeah.
Welcome, Thomas.
Yeah. Hey,
Pastor
the
Chris.
psalmist. And before Pastor Chris, aka the psalmist, get into it, we're gonna go to a quick commercial break.
Prestige Media says, how valuable is one's spirituality when considering social economic factors that negatively impact the poor amongst us, mental wellness and physical health? Great question.
Oh, that is a great question. I mean, for personally, I think is very important and very impactful. But that's also based off of how I was raised. I was raised in a very Christian, spiritual household, and that was instilled in me, growing up. So that's all for me. That's all I know, and I don't allow anything else to like alter my faith when it comes to that. And then when I feel like I'm maybe dipping down into like a state of like uncertainty or anxiety or whatever, I know I depend on that foundation. I know where to go. I start praying. I call, or text, or read a scripture to kind of, or listen to a song to kind of remind me of, who's ultimately responsible for my life. So I feel personally that it is definitely impactful to, your overall well-being, regardless of your economical status.
Awesome.
Thank you. Antoinette says, I believe in staying on top of my health. The minute something doesn't feel right, I'm off to the doctor. I don't like to sit in anything because things can change way too fast. That's so true.
That's my mom. Listen, my mom does not play the radio. Okay. She's like, let me, and she calls me. I'm on speed dial. And I'm like, she's like, I'm just going to make an appointment. Yes, mom, just go ahead, make your appointment.
Yeah. And before we let this psalmist go, and I'm like, yeah, we all family here, so we share and we overshare. I never forget. I went to the doctor. And I called my doctor and I'm like, I have hair growing everywhere. It's just hair. She was like, oh my gosh, Pache, come in, come in. Made the emergency appointment, got there. She said, so where's the hair? I was like, you don't see that? She said, where? I said, you don't see that hair right there? She said, well, you do know your body change every 7 years, though. She said, but I'm glad to see you're in tune with your body. She said, but when you said hair, I thought you meant you had patches of hair growing. I was like, no, it's just these fine hairs right here because I don't have hair. She said, no, you're fine. So I say that to say I'm one that it don't belong, take it out, remove it. What is this? Let's figure it out. So that is me as well. Okay, Psalmist, how are you?
I am great. This conversation was definitely informative because, again, that's a topic that is not comfortable, to say the least. And if you
What is
are
the
a
procedure?
baritone,
Okay.
yeah, and if you are a baritone, you definitely will go up a couple of octaves. All right, let me stop. But I understand. I understand the importance of it because, again, it is, and being that I suffer from chronic pain on medical record, I have to make sure I flush my body and do detoxes at least 30 to 60 days with all the medication I have to take to function. That's also a healthy way to maintain your health and also your mental state just by doing detoxes and, of course, checking, with your doctors and so forth and so on. So for me, that's just a normal thing because I have to in order to operate the way I operate. So, the information was awesome tonight.
And I do want to say that I know a lot of men freak out about the digital, exam, digital rectal exam. However, you can also just get a simple blood test. And that, so if you get a blood test to check your PSA, which is your prostate, you don't have to get the digital rectal exam. Like, you can start with a blood test. That really is more indicative of what's going on anyway, right? So if you're
Gotcha.
not comfortable, it is totally okay. Say, hey, can you add it to my blood work while you're checking my cholesterol and my A1C? Like, can you check my
That's
PSA?
good.
Right. And then that way it's like, okay, we can monitor. Because that essentially, now my dad did have the, the digital, but what determined his diagnosis was his PSA, which was the blood. His numbers, I think he was around a 6, and they want you to be under a 4, like 4 and under. Between 4 and 10, you pretty much, you have it. And then anything above that is like, it's very severe. So you have like a really small window of, if you, and he started off at like, I think he said he was a little bit under 4, and then within a year, he was at 6. And then that's when the ball started rolling at that point. So again, if you don't feel comfortable, because, it's not the most comfortable thing, but it's not as uncomfortable as women having, our vaginas looked at. So, I mean, that's a little bit more invasive. And you have to actually go in and swab and all that other kind of stuff where, this is kind of like in and out and you're done. But you can, and there's no blood work for us women when it comes to, getting our hoo-ha looked at, our pocketbook, as we like to say too. Versus,
Right.
men, at least you have the option to then get your blood work done. So if you don't feel
And
comfortable, just ask about, can you add a PSA to my blood work? Just put it that way.
and again, this is awesome. We have been talking about heroic health versus mental and physical health. And this is really just like my co-host said, we love our Black men. We love y'all. We want y'all to be healthy. This is so, stay encouraged, encourage one another. Don't wait to the last minute.
Right.
Don't be behind the ball.
Definitely don't wait to the last minute, especially, and ask questions too of your family. Like that's another key thing too, because sometimes you can get some information, in that way. Asking like, did dad have it, grandfather, brother, or somebody? Because there's a greater chance of, if your father has it, then you will likely have it as well. And then if you have a son, that they will have it. So it's communication, right, amongst yourselves, on what is going on. And if you have family members who do have it, go and get checked. That's more of a reason, because you're potentially at a higher risk compared to someone who doesn't. But you're not going to know it. Start somewhere.
Hello, Michael. Hello, Mike McDonald is here. How are you?
Hey,
He's
Mike.
another one of our faithful, Shalivia. Mike, do you have a comment for tonight before we go to the questions?
Yeah, very informative. A little one-sided, but let me tell you a story about a female that
Lord have mercy.
Go ahead, Mike.
Good.
Go ahead, Mike. What's one-sided?
So you're talking about males, and yeah, we do need to go, get our regular checkups, and as you can see, a lot of males are stepping up and they're saying, yeah, we're going to get our, they're going to get theirs, whether it be for the job, whether it be for their mental health themselves, just they're used to doing that, they're used to keeping a certain status, so they would like to maintain that, and that's great, and I understand that there are a lot of males that don't do it. I have friends that don't do it, and I encourage them to do it. But women, let's talk about the women. So I once dated a girl. She ate gummy bears, not gummy bears, fruit snacks and Pepsi before she went to bed, and it was such a turnoff. I was like, "Yo, for real? You're like 50 years old." You got all that sitting on your teeth, and she couldn't understand why I wanted to move away from her. Like, yo, I'm not you. Well, you know what? When you old and you need help, miss, you gonna need help before I need help. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, come on. So to the women, this doesn't evade you. It doesn't escape you. I want you to check your diets. I want you to check your health, your eating habits. Get into the gym. With the white women. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't see it. Wait. I see. Women just have that natural, structure. Okay, black women have a natural structure, right? And they feel like they don't have to work on that structure. You know what I'm saying? And this is fact. This is fact. Okay, so they feel like because they have that structure that looks healthy, that they don't need to be in the gym. You understand? Because I look fit, but fit is not just a physical um, structure. It's an inner structure also. So to the women,
So let me, not to interrupt you, but
Look,
no,
one second, Shalivia, 1 second, because Mike, you're not accustomed to Mike, so Mike always throws a curveball.
no, that's not a
okay.
curve.
And Mike, you're muted. And to your point, if you were, I don't know if you were here earlier, but we're talking about men's, but we were here to talk about men's health. That's why the show is really geared towards men's health, not us women. We're spotlighting men the entire month. Like we are giving y'all the entire month to just highlight y'all and lift y'all up. That's what we're doing. Okay. I don't know how it shifted to the women in the gym and the gummy bears and the Pepsi. I just don't know at this point, but it's okay. Shalivia, go.
So I
And
was
then,
just
and then we go to the commercial and then we go back to Mike.
right. Well, I'm glad that that was made clear. So, but I did, since he did mention white girls in the gym, um, just to let you know, most white girls are in the gym because they actually.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to mute. Time out, time out, time out. I gotta mute everybody, right? Order in the court. Somebody, one of our faithful followers, bought me a gavel. Order in the court. We are not calling out race, creed, color. Again, at the beginning, everybody will be respected. White, black, purple, brown. Just say women. Just say certain women. We don't want to single out any race or anybody. Okay? Thank you. Shalivia, no disrespect to you. I'm unmuting you right now because I don't want you to follow his lead because he will have you somewhere. I promise you, he will have you somewhere you do not want to be. Take it
No,
away.
no, no. Thank you for like, so for certain women, and I was going to say, because of my weight loss management that I'm doing, I actually have, certain women who see themselves as overweight when they're not. So for certain women, it's really more about a self-esteem issue, and they perceive themselves to look a certain way when they really aren't, but they are so fixated on trying to maintain something that's really not in their season anymore, like they're way older, so obviously your metabolism is a lot slower, so you're not going to necessarily be the same size as you were when you were like 21, 22. But for them, that's what they want, even though they've had kids and life and age and everything. But they get so fixated on that image of themselves, and then obviously what they see on social media and Hollywood and everything like that, that really influences their drive to be in the gym versus it being more about maintaining health.
Thank you for that, Shalibia. Like, click, and share. Commercial break, and then Mike, you can go with it. Let's go to commercial. Look at this here.
Reginald said, Mike. Antoinette said, oh, Lord.
Oh,
This is William Michael Barbie. He says, Brother Mike. He says, Mike is Mike. I love him. He also said, you're kind and sweet.
So, okay, Mike, you're back on. You're unmuted again. No disrespect to you, but being that we on YouTube, is certain languages that we can use and we can't use. So when I do the immediate mute, because I know sometimes we go all over the place, we can't do that, okay? Because we'll be on YouTube timeout. So it's no disrespect to you. I just want to reel us in sometimes. So take it away.
Okay, so don't mute me on this, okay? But I didn't know it was Men's Month. Okay, June is another month, so I didn't know we had to share the month with the other month or the other. I'm not even gonna say it because you're gonna mute me again. So anyway,
I'm so lost
I
right
think
now.
we
What other month?
confused because last month was Mental Health Month. June
last month.
is May was Mental Health Month. June
Okay.
is Men's Health Month. So we
Oh, okay.
decided, yes.
Understood.
So we decided to celebrate men for the month of June, and we wanted to start our first show in June to talk about men's health topics that maybe we've talked about, but to have a professional on to give us some insight. As I stated earlier, we love our men. We want our men to live as long as possible, but we want the information. So if you go back and watch, there was so many nuggets that was dropped
Okay.
in this time frame to just give us a better understanding for those that love, our men. We can help, and for those that are on here, they're hearing this information and being able to take it and say, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't think about it that way. Because Shalivia dropped some really great jewels,
Mhm.
just like you said, in the
And it
blood.
was, yeah, and then it was even also thought of, and this is something HG is doing, something Elaine and I decided to do also in June because of the month of Father's Day. We normally hear fathers get socks and ties and just get one day. So we decided to celebrate men. We are going HG, Mondays Beyond the Mic, is going to dedicate the month of June to men. So that's how we got here.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
for clarification.
Commercial break. Commercial break.
Said Mike is going to get our monetization away. We only been monetized for 2 weeks, Mike.
Right. You're gonna take our privileges away.
No, no,
No, we're going to send Mike a bill. No.
no. I'm just saying. I understand it's Men's Week, Men's Month. It's also Gay Pride Month, right? So,
But that's not what we're celebrating.
He's muted.
Okay. All right. So let's go back to that commercial break.
Commercial break. Commercial break.
Oh my
Mark
God.
said Mike didn't get the memo. Laugh out loud.
And again, Shalibia, Mike is our staple. He's always here. He takes it. Mike is Mike. You see everybody laughing. He takes it. Understand? It's a one big happy family here. So we throw shots. This is what we do here, and he gets it. He look at him. He look Bobby. He don't care. He don't care. You can't.
Oh my God.
William Michael Bobby. Mike just said he cares. He's showing feelings and vulnerability and being
Emotions.
transparent. He's showing emotions.
No,
Oh my
seriously.
gosh.
I'm
What's
being
going
serious.
on right now?
Serious. I appreciate the show. I appreciate the narrative that Shalivia. I say that correctly, right? Shalivia. That you put forth, especially about the ways to stay healthy. But what do you feel about fasting? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so fasting can work for some people, like most diet trends or whatever. It's not one size fits all. So for some people, they get better results, and then other people find themselves not getting the same type of results, and that can be discouraging. I've had patients that come in who said, I've tried the intermittent fasting, I've tried this, I've tried that, and I kind of gotten stuck and I'm at this wall. And so they are trying to get over this hump because they're still considered clinically obese. So, I mean, if you find that it works for you, then obviously you can keep doing it. But if not, then you would then possibly have to try something else to kind of see like what else can you make adjustments, whether increasing your workouts, like being more healthy, heart driven workouts, getting your cardio up, challenging yourself in that way, because you're not burning anything if your heart rate isn't getting up to a certain number, right? And then how you recover, it also indicates how healthy your heart is and how well that workout happens. So if it's taking you 20, 30 minutes to recover, you have a long ways to go, right? Versus if if you can recover in like 10 minutes, max, whatever, your heart rate goes back to where it's under 100. And then it's like, okay, your heart is conditioned, because your heart is a muscle. So the more conditioned it is, the better. So doing exercises that gets your heart rate going strengthens it. And then that way you can kind of then tailor like what you're doing. And then it may, a lot of it is diet as well. Like, what can you alter? Because sometimes if you are doing the intermittent fasting, you're going to end up gaining weight versus losing it, right?
May I offer some knowledge that you may or may not have on it?
Yeah,
and it's only personal, because I can only speak from a personal standpoint.
Yeah.
But so I used to walk around at about 215. Now I walk around at about 2. The highest I'll probably get is like 205. And I did a lot of fasting all of last year, but my fasting was intermittent. I only ate in a 6-hour window, and let my body rest, because for 18 hours per day. And I probably only did it 3 days a week, religiously or unreligiously. I tried to live up to 3 days a week. But what it does offer also is that it clears the mind, it clears the body. It actually, digestion is actually saps the energy out of your body. And I think that us Black men, we like to keep a certain stature. We like to be a certain size. And I think that we think that the bigger we are, the tougher we are. And I think that, you walk around at a certain weight, you have this bloating thing going on. It means you're seen as more masculine that way than you are if you're slimmer and more fit. You understand? And that's what I think our community gets caught up in. Because I had a lot of people say, "Oh, Mike, you got small. I think I could take you now," or stupid stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I didn't get smaller. I got more fit. You know what I'm saying? My stomach is
lean,
not like yours. That's all. You know what I'm saying? And then it's just this stigma that we have, that we have to be meat eaters. We have to be this. We have to be that. And it's just the narrative just destroys our community as a whole. You know what I'm saying? We have to eat certain foods versus not eating certain foods, and it all goes hand in hand. I think it's cultural. I think it's by systematic, the foods in our neighborhoods, the foods that are available in our neighborhoods, the foods that are not available in our neighborhoods, and just the whole psyche part of it, just how we should eat, how we should look, how we should carry ourselves.
But that's also by design, right? I feel like some of it, they place certain foods in our communities for a reason. Like, back in the day, they gave us the scraps, our ancestors, the scraps, right? And what did we made the best of it. We have chitlins.
Right. I said, you don't have to eat that anymore.
But they're horrible for you, right? But we did what our ancestors did the best with what they had, with the scraps that they were given. And that just translated into like, the generations that.
Right. Because right? We as a people, some of us still cook chitlins on New Year's Day, right? And I'm like, yo, you don't have to eat that anymore. You've overcome. You didn't hear about it. You know what I'm saying? But they still keep on that tradition. And this is just crazy in my opinion. Crazy.
And then also to your point of like,
no offense, but I'm just saying,
I'm a chitlin eater. I just only eat it once every 4 or 5 years. Yes, I just don't eat it, but once every 4 or 5 years. That's like my treat. I'm from the South, so I'm like
gummy bears and Pepsi every night. You know what I'm saying?
Then that's what it's gonna be. Like, I'm from the South, so but
that's not an excuse.
I don't. It's not. I definitely agree. Which is why I don't eat it all the time. I mean, nobody really makes them as much as they used. At least in my hometown. I don't see it as often as it used to be when I was growing up. Like, you can pretty much go to almost every household
Right.
and get chitlins at that time. But now it's not really as common as it used to be. So I think people are evolving a little bit and becoming more educated, as time goes on. And to your point with the intermittent fasting, what you said was like consistency. And that's with anything. If you're consistently doing it, then obviously the results, you'll be able to see the fruits of your labor with consistency. But a lot of times we don't have the patience,
Right.
and we want what we want right now, and I hear that a lot with my patients. Like, they don't have the capacity to just do the work and do it consistently, because I tell them it's a lifestyle. It's not a quick fix. It's going to take time. Like, it took time for you to get to this point in your in your weight journey. It's going to take time for you to go revert all this back, because you kind of have to unlearn everything that you've been doing, and that takes time, and it's hard, in addition to living life, right? So
So this is very, very good. And thank you all for tuning in. We got some comments. We're going to go to commercial break, and then we have a question. So,
This is William Michael Barbie. He says, Mike is making a good point. He says, you're so kind. You're so sweet. Bravo with Sheila is saying, Mike. Mark says, I have a question. How much of the mental health pressures do us men put on ourselves? Men and women, answers accepted. I would just say, let the men answer that.
y'all want to
I
read the
don't put
question again?
anything on myself.
Mike said,
Pastor Chris? Mike said he got nothing.
Oh, well, mental health is, again, another one of those urban legends culturally in regards to wanting help for yourself, or you find the need to shift to help yourself. It's one of those things, especially as men. It's like, okay, I got to go to the shrink. I guess I'm psycho now, kind of thing. No, it's not. And I could say this as a testament to mental health in regards to doing that, because I have been dealing with my son's death, and that has been very taxing. Not with just what I go through every day, but just still going through those changes. So again, mental health, having someone to talk to when you get to a point of the darkness, as they say, you're going to the dark side of the force. Well, you have to make a conscious decision to change. If you don't want to, or if you want to continue to do it, then so be it. So, it does have a great effect. Mental issues concerned. Of course, we're going to talk about this this month as well in regards to just being a man. So there's a lot of pressures involved just being a man. So of course you're going to go through these things, and we're always taught to stay strong. We're always taught to never give up. We're always taught to keep going, even though we're losing our very mind as we continue to run. It is imperative that we find someone that's professional, that understands our mental capacity, or have someone that we can entrust to talk to, because that is important. Because as soon as we get to a point, especially as men, when we're disrespected, when we're not honored, all these things go into play. We get into this mode. Okay, I'm about to just go ham on the gym. Okay, that's great. Physically, yes, if you have issues, you have things that you need to take care of, do it. Simple as that. But mental health is an issue, especially amongst young Black men. The suicide rate is ridiculous. Just doing my own study, it's ridiculous in regards to the capacity that they don't have between generations. A lot of generations had the switches. A lot of generations, you had to go back there and pick one. A lot of them you had to stay in your room for like a week with no game for boys, with no Barbie dolls for girls. And we'd be on punishment for 2 weeks. Now, for all you people that are close to my age, I know what I'm talking about, because it's not timeout. It's a whole different thing. When you are being disciplined, and that's what's lacking. Our discipline's not there. We're growing up too fast. We're trying to do all these things as men, trying to uphold the titles that was deemed before us by men that dropped the ball. So not only I got to perform, I got to make the money. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to keep my body right. Dad bods aren't in. Ball heads aren't in. All this nonsense. And then dealing with and dealing with our jobs, all this stuff. The pressure is mounting. So I'm going to close with that, and I don't want to be too long-winded. But again, mental health, it does put men at a disadvantage if we do not get that straight. Because yes, you can be strong. Yes, you can do all that. Yes, you've endured, been there, done that. But at the end of the day, to keep your sanity, you have to find professional help. That's my opinion on that.
And that is great, because what you just said ties us into the beginning where we started, and we can wrap it up. We were talking about heroic health, and this topic came from The Boy Crisis. It's a book that I read, and the quote says that a hero must so fully sacrifice himself that others only recognize his facade, do not himself as a fully human being. That is when that is others recognizing Superman, but no one knows the real Clark Kent. And Lois Lane was only interested in him as Clark Kent after he discovered he was Superman. Now we know that what Pastor Chris just said, it ties into that in the aspect of men having to put on these facades and carrying a weight. And guess what? You don't have to. You don't have to. So we're gonna do the round. Pastor Chris spoke. Mike has something to say. Shalivia, what we do, we allow the guests to have the last word. So let's go. Mike.
I just wanted to clarify something that you just said. So you're saying that Lois Lane wasn't interested in Clark Kent until she found out he was Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's funny. Ain't that like
Yeah.
the woman though, right? So my thought on the mental health part of this all, and I heard Pastor, which was on point. I went through a journey when I was going in and out of court, family court, with my daughter's mother, to the point where it was really affecting the way I interacted with people that I knew, that I didn't know. Somebody blows their horn at me and I'm going off, and I, it almost came down to me losing my job. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I said, I got to clear my mind. And I kept hearing about this book, The Alchemist, and that was probably the first book I read since high school. You know what I'm saying? And that I had to read, that I didn't have to read. You know what I'm saying? And then that led me to a few other books, and one of the two that were the most noted was The Four Agreements and The Power of Now. And that put me on a journey that probably saved my life, because nothing could affect me. And I still got to keep referring back from time to time. So men in their mental health, they got to have something. They got to have a word from another person, a professional, something that they can refer to, the Bible, God, a book, what have you, something concrete, something real, something that makes sense, and something that they can relate to in order to get through this life. So,
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. So I would say just stay encouraged. Be encouraged, men. Be with us for the month of June. We have some other great topics. We have some panel discussions coming up. We'll be celebrating Juneteenth and all of that good stuff in June. Co-host Elaine is going to have her say, and then Shalivia will close us out.
I would just say in this to know that you're supported. And I think a lot of times we feel like we're alone and we're not. We just have to open up our mouths and let people know. And you will find the support that you need. And again, last note for me would definitely be we want you to live as long as you want.
Absolutely. So I want to first say thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this time and the conversation and promoting the health and wealth of Black men because I have an awesome father and I'm so grateful to God that he is who he is to me in my life. So I definitely can appreciate good Black men for sure because I have a great example. So I would encourage everyone to not be afraid to ask questions, to do the research, go to the CDC, go to the, American Cancer Society, those reputable .orgs, .gov websites to get information on, statistics or things that are relevant to us and our culture. And don't be afraid to, put yourself out there. It's not as bad as it seems. You just have to ask the right questions and understand what your options are. So, like I said before, just starting with the blood test, that tells a lot. A blood and urine test, can really tell a lot, and then go from there. But you have to start somewhere to obviously know where you're trying to go, where you would like to go. So, I encourage everyone to,
Awesome.
stay proactive.
Awesome. And thank you for the comments. Thank you for always being here with us. Thank you for, of course, Mike and Pastor Chris always jumping up on the platform to contribute, make the show fun. And again, like I said, we are one big happy family. Don't forget to tune in next Monday to Mondays Beyond the Mic. Click, like, and
Yeah.
share.